All right, welcome to another episode of Operation American Dream. I'm your host, Craig Sewing, with our co-host, Daniel Amen. Former Marine, good to have you here.
Good to be here.
How many mortgage refis have you closed outside of this show, running your mortgage branch, man? I bet it's just going nuts right now.
It's going nuts. Yeah.
The IRRLs?
IRRLs, yeah. One of the unknown benefits of the VA loan is a streamlined refi.
So we'll dive into that here in a bit. I'm going to put you on the spot. You ready?
I'm ready.
So Donald Trump just took the candidacy for president. Hillary's on the other side of it. I know that you tend to be on social media on this stuff. When you look at these presidential candidates, as a former Marine, obviously we're still engaged in the war on terror. I'm just curious how this is all playing out for you, because a lot of the politics are pretty nauseating. But from a Marine perspective, what are your thoughts?
Kind of like a Marine, but I'm also like a Marine millennial. I kind of like more latched on to what Ivanka said about kind of being neither here nor there about stuff. I thought her speech was really interesting.
Yeah, she was pretty vocal that she's not a Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah, it was interesting to me, and I think that's kind of right where a lot of people are, right there in the middle, and tend to look at what they feel on things and not align with one route or the other. So I'm probably much more of a millennial than you'd think as a white Christian Marine.
You don't look like it with that big beard.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You still fit in the bracket. No, I think that's actually a big reason that Trump has gained popularity, is people don't really identify him with the party, even though he's running on the Republican ticket. He's dividing that party.
I always go back and forth, man. I'm like, that makes a little bit of sense. Oh my God, you're insane. Oh, that looks okay. What is wrong with this guy?
Yeah, well, you know what it is? It's that you want him to be this savior, right? This guy is going to turn the economy around. It's going to get tough on and be that law and order president as he comes. But yeah, then he gets a little crazy. But
it's off the wall.
I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I want to get your comments on that. We got a great show lined up. One of the coolest interviews we did earlier this week, Captain Mark Sedrin, who captained the ship that saved Captain Phillips.
Boxer. Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty killer. We got Tony Tervanian with the STEP program, and you brought a guest, CEO of Parabolas Space.
Yes, yeah. I guess Eve Nasby, other co-host.
So first timer, Dave Strike. Okay, yep. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and get Operation American Dream started right now.
All right, welcome back to Military Mondays. Craig's left the news desk for the moment, so I can sit here with one of my good friends and the president and CEO of Support the Enlisted Project. We talk about it all the time. There's a ton of nonprofits in San Diego, and for some reason, everybody wants to start their own nonprofit. And some of them do amazing work in the community, and STEP is definitely one of them that's like head and shoulders above the rest in terms of what they do for the community. So thanks for stopping by, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So first of all, I want to talk about you a little bit. So you're not a submariner, because that would be...
Submariner.
You're a submariner.
Submariner.
I got corrected on that from a guy that you shouldn't have correct you. But yeah, so you're in the submarine. So how long were you in the Navy?
8 years, 3 months, and 2 days.
That's not specific enough.
It's not. Before that, though, I also grew up as my dad was in the military, career Air Force guy. So we moved around the world up until I was about 16. I did 2 years of school, a semester at college, and then I was right into the military.
Well, so you got out of the Navy, and you didn't go into nonprofit for a while, right? You were at a couple different companies.
Nonprofit work fell in my lap. I mean, I got out and I started a night shift job in a manufacturing plant. I was there for 12 years. Through that time, I realized, I needed to start looking at my life. So put a couple of college degrees under my belt. Went from there to running some of my own businesses. And then I took a job doing some consulting work, finished a graduate degree. And really at that point, I was really pulling my professional life together. And I had an opportunity to volunteer with this organization.
Was Support the Enlisted Project? Or
yeah, we were under a different name at that point.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. It took them about 6 months to convince me to join the board. And I joined the board in 2010. And then in 2012, we went through a reorganization. And we wanted to be able to better serve the local military community. I mean, there's 85,000 junior enlisted service members in San Diego. Half of them married with families.
What's the total population? Around 100,000, right?
In the state?
In San Diego.
120,000.
So the vast majority are junior enlisted guys, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where your workforce is. I mean, those are the guys that fix the engines, make the airplanes fly, kick in the doors, storm the beaches, cook the burgers, file the paperwork. I mean, they do
They're the
all
ones
the work.
that need the most help.
They do. They get thrust here from across the country, right? San Diego's 4th or the 6th most expensive place to live in the country. The vast majority of these folks are just below or just above the low-income cutoff line per HUD standards.
The thing is, too,
They don't have the experience, right?
The thing is, too, when I was in the Marine Corps, it was very much the same thing. If you're on base and you're contained in that environment, you got the chow hall, you got your needs and stuff. But once one thing goes wrong, especially if you've got a family out in town or something, car breaks down, some kind of, kids need braces, something happens, and it's like there is just no safety net.
Right.
So Support the Enlisted Project is very much like an element of that safety net for majority enlisted guys, right? Junior enlisted guys.
Yeah, we're kind of one of the last safety nets. So last year we managed about 1,000 applications through our Emergency Financial Assistance Program, and each one of those folks were in a verifiable financial crisis. They had a document that says they're in imminent loss of a basic necessity, like they're in the eviction process, their car is being repossessed, their electricity's off or being turned off.
They're going to get evicted.
We have no car insurance. It's being turned off. So we'll take people into this program. We have a counseling and education aspect where we do financial counseling with them, and we'll help them, empower them to get a budget that works, let them know they can make it moving forward, and then we can back that up with a grants program where we can pay that landlord, we can pay for the transmission, we can get them on their feet with that positive budget, and they can move forward.
So I'm always struck by your statistics. Do you have any off the top of your head, or how many?
Yeah.
I mean, there's
90. Well, this year we improved a little bit. So 93% of the folks that we help don't need to come back for more.
That's
assistance.
the most striking statistic for
That's
me.
huge.
Is like you can give. We were just talking about it, give a man to fish or teach a man to fish, right? So you guys are very much of the mind that you teach a man to fish. And so 93%, would you say 93, 94%?
93%, they can return. They all know they can return for a second service.
But
and
it's
93%
not
don't.
do not. Yeah.
And it's completely free to the service members. A newest one we just came up with, we went through some programs to try to do to quantify some qualitative data. And we found that through our program, just to before and after, we were able to reduce folks' financial stress levels by over half, to take them from between high and extremely high to moderate to some stress. So it's, that's the difference of being able to sleep at night. That's the difference being able to maintain composure at work and do your job and perform your functions. That's one of the biggest things we're looking at, how that affects people, but that's huge.
You guys are also doing a lot in the there's that kind of immediate kind of assistance, emergency assistance, but you also have some proactive stuff that you guys do in terms of like this Camis to College event.
Right. So we have a few secondary programs. We don't want to be the world's largest nonprofit. What we want to do is this emergency financial assistance program, but we also need to connect with the community. We need to connect with more service members. We need to build that brand so people know we're here for them. And ways to do that is through secondary programs. If the program is going to contribute to my main core mission, which is creating financial self-sufficiency with our junior enlisted military and veterans, then it fits, we'll take it on. So Camis to College is an education fair. It kind of grew out of our back to school program. We wanted to do something a little bit more than just hand out backpacks. So what we did was focused on the service members. How can I help bridge the information gap, help them make a more informed decision about using their educational benefits? I go back to my experiences. When I went to school, I knew that was the key to financial self-sufficiency in the long run. I didn't know where the schools were. I didn't know how to park. I didn't know where to get pass. I didn't know who to go see in what schools, and it was a challenge for me. So taking that now to the opportunities I have today to serve, today's young military folks. So our Camis to College event, we have at this point now 24 schools from across Southern California, most of which right here in San Diego, in one place at one time, and our veterans, our service members can come see them, and they can just walk up to the booth and say, what can you do for me? And the veteran service representatives will be there, and they'll start those discussions. They'll have a face, they'll get a name,
Completely
idea.
Completely free to the service
Completely
member.
free to the service members. It's completely free to the schools as well. We also have about 25 or 30 other agencies coming that have something to provide the service members during that transition. So whether it's mental health places or temporary job places, or the VA will be there, or other agencies to help them get other services during these times when they might need some other help.
And that's coming up July 30th, so that's coming up right around the corner.
July 30th. This year we're going to move it to south. Last year was up in Palomar College. Large concentration of military students up there. This year it's going to be at Naval Training Center, or NTC's Liberty Station Conference Center. So Saturday, July 30th from 11 to 3. Stop on by, get some questions answered, try to put together some kind of roadmap, see if it's possible for you to be able to make that school happen.
Well, thanks so much for coming by, man. If you want more information on the Cambusy College, stepsocal.org, and I also know that the services that Tony provides are free to the service member. The Cambusy College event is free to the service member. Everything is free to the service member, and those checks don't write themselves. So if you'd like to donate to support the Enlisted Project, I definitely recommend it as one of the, like I said, the best nonprofits in San Diego serving active military duty. So stepsocal.org, stepsocal.org. Stick around. Craig's going to be back with more with Dave Strike he's the CEO of Parabolis Space Technologies. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to the show. Now I'm taking over. We got the Marine out of here. I promised you this would be a great show of guests today. Mark Sedrin, captain of the Captain Phillips movie, the one who brought in the Navy SEALs, is going to be with me here in just a minute from an interview we did earlier in the week. But joining me now in studio, we're not talking about trolling the waters. We're actually talking about rocket ships. We have Dave Strike, who's the CEO of Parabolis Space Technologies. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
So you and I were chatting in the green room for a bit while Daniel was interviewing Tony. And what a fascinating story that you guys have. You're founder of the company, served in the military, correct? Frank McMillan?
Frank Macklin is the person's name, and he is a military veteran. He served in both the Air Force and Marines, which is unusual, but Frank is one of our co-founders, and we do very cool stuff at Parabolis.
And I know that you guys hire vets, which I think is an awesome story.
We do. So we're going to be growing. If we do this right, we're going to be growing exponentially, and we're going to be maybe 3, 4, up to 10 times our current size. And as we grow, we need engineers. And if there are engineers coming out of the military that can do the things that we do, we're going to need those individuals. So one of the things that we're looking to do is to actively recruit within the military and look for those engineers that are coming out of the military and use that as part of our strategy for growing the company.
Such a great skill set. Anyone who you ever meet that is an engineer, I have a good friend that's an engineer, and just the organization that they can bring to the table for any business is it's huge.
It's true, and there's not enough engineers to go around. So for any veteran that's watching that's going back to college after serving, my advice to all of them is get an engineering degree, because a lot of companies need them. There aren't enough to go around, and they are very valuable commodities in today's marketplace.
Great nugget. All right, let's talk about what you guys are doing there.
Sure.
Pretty fascinating stuff. So Richard Branson, everybody knows that name. He has Spaceship One. Now, the idea behind Spaceship One is to take people to the moon?
It's not going to be going to the moon yet, Craig, but they are going to be flying people into space.
Crazy enough, all right.
The team at Parabolis, so Frank Macklin in particular, was the architect for the propulsion system that powered Spaceship One, which was the proof of concept for Spaceship Two, which is going to be the operating business that flies people into space. But we designed, developed, and built the propulsion system, the rocket that powered Spaceship One. It basically created the first private astronaut in history. So up until that point, astronauts came from governments, and this was the first private person that became an astronaut was on our rocket and in that vehicle.
What an accomplishment.
It was
so
terrific.
Branson's goal is to have regular trips going into space for anybody who wants to check it out?
Yeah, they fly as Virgin Galactic, so you know Virgin America, you know Virgin Atlantic. He's going to operate Virgin Galactic as a business, and his business is going to be taking people who want to up into space.
I don't know if I'm ready for that. So what's the timeline for him? Do you know? I mean, when does he really want to start really doing this? What is it going to cost people? And Do you know
I'm
what
not
his
exactly
big
sure
goals
the
are?
timeline, so it's still in development. They've had some hiccups along the way, but I know that they're hoping to get up there as soon as possible, and we're going to be watching very closely as somebody that's done some work with them.
And so what does that even mean, go into space, right? So when someone says land on the moon, I can equate that. You're going to land on that big white ball that we see every night. But when you say go into space, I mean, how far out from Earth is that? And when you look back, I mean, are you going to be able to see the ball of Earth? Is it going to be small, big? How far up are we talking here?
Well, there's actually different people that think there are different thresholds before you actually go into space, and I'm far from an expert on that.
Yeah.
But the generally recognized threshold is if you go up, 500 to 600,000 feet is that you're on the threshold of space. And if you go up that high, and if you look at the Spaceship One vehicle when it went up, you'll notice that you can see the curvature of the Earth. You can see the black sky and the stars that you see in space.
Wow.
And you're also experiencing weightlessness. So, when you ask me as a layperson, is that space? To me, that looks like space.
That's just fascinating. I can't even imagine. It sounds like it's going to be happening in our lifetime. So
Yeah.
truly incredible. You guys also do a lot of stuff with satellites, and you were explaining to me that you do a lot of, from small projects to big one. Explain what else you have going on.
So we do simple propulsion solutions, we do small satellites, and we also do some engineering services that are worth talking about. But what ties it all together for us is that it's affordable. So they're very simple and affordable solutions. In fact, the name Parabolas is Latin for affordable, and that's where we came up with the name.
Okay.
But the whole idea is if we make things affordable, then space development is going to happen faster and it's going to happen sooner, and we're big fans of that happening. So we want to do affordable space solutions rather than a lot of the stuff that you see flying today costs tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars.
Wow.
Ours are going up for a few $1,000,000 to tens of $1,000,000, and
Now
that's a lot of money.
You guys operate solely in the private sector, is that right?
Not true. We actually
Okay.
serve government customers. In fact, one of the things that we do in terms of engineering services is we're experts in technology called hybrid rockets, and our biggest customer for that is JPL, and they actually have a Mars mission. They're a quasi-government agency because they're part of NASA, part of Caltech up in Pasadena, California, and they've got Mars missions coming up, and we plan on being a big part of that and doing the propulsion system for those
Absolutely
missions.
fascinating. Well, if you want to learn about space travel and rockets and propulsion systems, which we were sitting in the green room and you said, yeah, we put the propulsion system on the Spaceship One. I had to stop Dave. I go, it's a propulsion system. So we're talking rockets. They're real cool. I hope you can visit these guys online, learn more about their story, and thank you for being innovative, trailblazing, and certainly helping our vets find jobs. And if you got anything from that, get your engineering degree. Awesome, Dave. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks.
All right, earlier this week on our TV show, The American Dream, I had just an amazing interview with Captain Mark Sedrin. I don't even want to try and do it any justice. Check out what he had to say about the rescue mission with Captain Phillips, the movie that you've seen come out of Hollywood. Here's the real interview. All right, now joining me in studio, what an amazing guest we have. We have Captain Mark Sedrin. You have heard of the Captain Phillips story. Well, Mark played a big hand in that, and he joins us in studio right now. Mark, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
First and foremost, thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome.
Man, I got a lot of questions for you in a limited amount of time. I'm sure anybody tuned in right now does as well. So first and foremost, I guess if you could help start us with your position as captain and how this thing ultimately played out.
I was commanding officer of USS Boxer, LHD-4, here out of San Diego. And at that time, back in January 2009, we were heading out for deployment. And what was going on was that piracy out in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Somalia had risen to levels where it had gotten international attention.
Yep.
So in response to that, the United States Navy established Task Force 151, which was the counter-piracy task force. And USS Monterey was the initial flagship with Admiral Terry McKnight, who was the task force commander. So when we left San Diego, we got orders to relieve Monterey, and we took over as the task force flagship. And the Admiral transferred his flag to my ship, and we commenced patrols in the Gulf of Aden.
So when you pulled out of San Diego Bay, was your task specific to this, or is it something you learned?
No, we thought we were going to go on the regular 6-month, go into the Gulf, hang a right, go into the Persian Gulf, do presence missions, do exercises with our allies out in that area, and then all of a sudden, nope, guess what? You're going to do piracy operations.
When did you learn that?
Oh boy, we were still. I think we were around Hawaii when we got the word that that's what was going to happen. That the mission had changed. That we were going to do piracy patrol.
Okay, so that's probably pretty early in the deployment, I would think, if you're out.
It was.
Okay.
It takes usually for a San Diego ship takes you about a week to get to Hawaii.
Okay.
And then after that, it takes you about 2/3 of a month to get into the Gulf from Hawaii. So all in all, the whole it takes a month to get from here to the Persian Gulf for a San Diego ship.
So you get the call, and now you realize that you're going to engage in what became a historic event?
Well, we didn't know that until we got into theater. When we got into theater, and this was, I think it was around March of 2009, we just went to the Gulf of Aden, and we just started patrol. Because the Gulf of Aden...
And so when you're patrolling out there, you are on the counter piracy mission.
The Gulf of Aden is one of the most heaviest trafficked merchant shipping lanes in the world.
Okay.
So everybody's protecting their commerce. And it wasn't just us. I mean, there were countries, God, I want to say there was like 46 other countries who sent their navies to protect the commerce that was going through there.
Wow.
So we were just part of that operation. Now, all those ships weren't part of our task force, but they were all out there. I mean, there were ships from the People's Republic of China. There were ships from Italy, France. I mean, the Iranians had ships.
And were you guys communicating with one another?
We would communicate if we saw each other, but primarily our communication was with the other ships of the task force, and also with the civilian merchant traffic that would communicate with us to, hey, where are you going? Hey, we're transiting this. Are you guys going to be there? So on and so forth. I think it got to the point where the civilian merchants, if you were a warship, they didn't care what flag you were flying. They would just want to be close to you as they transited through the Gulf.
Makes sense. So now you're out there. Can you transition the story to what our audience recognizes as the Captain Phillips story?
In April of 2008, we were doing our piracy patrol, and the Maersk Alabama was doing World Food Program operations from Djibouti down to Mombasa, Kenya. So... we were just cruising. All of a sudden, we get the word, hey, an American flag merchant is reporting that she's being attacked by pirates. And I said, okay. Now, the rules of engagement for me at the time, if we heard a ship calling, we were to tell them, hey, increase speed to full, commence your zigzag maneuvers, and they were supposed to have their fire hoses rigged on the lifelines and to start energizing their fire hoses. If we were close enough, I could leave the patrol sector and go to that ship, or I'd send a helicopter to put eyeballs on target on the ship that was being attacked. So anyway, we were about 500 miles north of the Maersk Alabama when this happened. And then when it ramped up that, hey, the Maersk Alabama is being boarded by pirates, then my ship, USS Bainbridge, and USS Halliburton, which was a frigate, we were all detached from patrol duty, and we were told to proceed best speed to the position of the Maersk Alabama.
Okay.
So we all took off. So we're heading south. And of course, at that time, the pirates had boarded the Maersk Alabama, and we got into, as you saw in the movie, we got into the crew was hiding, and the pirates wanted to get the ship going so they can get it off the coast of Somalia, and which eventually led to Phillips getting into the lifeboat. Because what had happened was the Maersk Alabama, when she did her maneuver, she sank the pirate boat, that skiff they had come in. They sank that, so that's how we got to the lifeboat. So Phillips is showing them how to use a lifeboat. One of the guys hits the release, boat goes in the water, and they take off, started heading for Somalia. So Bainbridge was the first ship on scene. And I should say we had an American, a P-3 Orion, one of our maritime patrol aircraft, was already on station overlooking the Maersk Alabama and providing us, intelligence as to what was going on. So we had situational awareness when we got into the theater. Anyway, so Bainbridge got there first, assessed the situation, and Frank Castellano was still at the Bainbridge at the time. His orders were to prevent that lifeboat from getting into Somali waters. Okay. So he physically took his destroyer and prevented the lifeboat from getting closer ashore. Maersk Alabama was sent to Mombasa. We were continuing south when I got a message that I was going to pick up the SEALs. And I said, that's great. I'm in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Where's that going to happen? And they said, no problem. Rendezvous at this point, at this time, and you will see 3 C-17s from the Air Force
Wow.
and rendezvous with them. That's how you can pick up the SEALs. So we show up, the 3 C-17s are in the air, they're in formation. The next thing I see is parachutes. I mean, it's like D-Day.
Wow.
And I don't know if you saw the movie.
Yes.
Okay, how many SEALs did you see in the movie?
If I remember correctly, not that many. I wouldn't have reflected on it being like D-Day.
Yeah, well, you saw what, like maybe 6 in the movie? 200.
200.
200. The unit flew in 200 of these guys. We picked them all up out of the water, and then we headed south. And then I was told to stay out of visual range of the lifeboat because they didn't want to spook the pirates with the big ship rolling in.
Right.
So that's what we did. So if you saw the movie, there's this one scene where the lifeboat's in the middle and the big ship and the destroyer on either side, and they do a big turn and rock the boat. Never happened. Sorry, spoiler alert, but
Yep.
never happened. So anyway, we got on scene, and as you know, the lifeboat ran out of gas, and the senior pirate, Musée, he had been stabbed by the chief engineer of the Maersk Alabama, so his hand was festering. So he's like, okay, I'd like to talk. So that's when he radios Bainbridge and says, yeah, I want to start negotiating. I want to give you Phillips, and we want to go home and call it a day. So Bainbridge sends out a boat, picks up Musée, brings him to the Bainbridge, and then Bainbridge throws the lifeboat a tow line, takes him in tow. So long story short is, the SEAL commander had forwarded his plan up to the National Command Authority. That all got approved. I flew the 4 SEAL snipers dressed as Bainbridge sailors from my ship over to the Bainbridge. They took position on the stern of the Bainbridge, and it just became a waiting game. And of course, the Bainbridge, what her crew was doing is very slowly, and it shows this in the movie, they were taking the tow line to a capstan, which is a big powered winch, and they were heaving around on the line, and they were decreasing the length of tow. So the president authorized that when the SEALs had the 3 pirates who were remaining on the lifeboat visually at the same time, they were authorized to take the shot. So on 12th of April of 2009, which was Easter, I'll never forget, at 7:39 p.m., those 3 guys showed themselves, the SEALs took the shot, and we had 2 headshots, and one guy took 2 in the chest.
Unbelievable.
Dropped the SEAL. And then Bainbridge put a boat in the water, got Phillips out of the lifeboat, and then they took the senior pirate, Musée, who was on the Bainbridge, into custody. So that was the operation. And then where I start really get involved is, as Paul Harvey used to say, is the rest of the story.
Yep.
After Phillips was rescued off Bainbridge.
So unfortunately, we're running out of time here.
Okay.
Let me ask you one last thing here. You mentioned that Hollywood got a part or 2 wrong.
Right.
Overall, do you think they did a pretty good job?
Yes,
with the story?
overall, I think they did a really great job capturing everybody and capturing the mission. There's more, as you probably gather, there's more interesting story after the movie
can
ends.
imagine.
But no, I think they did a reasonably good job, and I think they portrayed everybody well. Yeah, but there was, as you well imagine, there was some Hollywood.
It's Hollywood.
Right.
Captain Mark Sedrin, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for your service, and
Oh, you're
thank
very
you for
welcome.
sharing that story. OperationAmericanDream.tv, social media, all that stuff. Engage in the conversation. But Daniel, you enjoy your weekend. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all those who've served. And of course, if you're like me and you haven't served, we can always do more. So OperationAmericanDream.tv. Have a great weekend, and we're out of here.